The great hall of Zantara Prime buzzed with the voices of 100 different species. Commander Zeth Corvin stood at the center podium, his gray skin gleaming under the bright lights. His red eyes swept across the assembled delegates as he waited for silence. "Fellow members of the council," Zeth began, his voice carrying the authority of the Corvin Empire. "What I am about to show you will change everything we thought we knew about our galaxy." The massive screen behind him flickered to life. Ancient symbols and strange writing filled the display. The delegates leaned forward in their seats, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. 3 weeks ago, our exploration team found a derelict space station on the edge of the outer rim. The station was old, older than anything we have ever discovered. Inside, we found these archives. Dr. Lysa Vex, the council's chief researcher, stood up from her seat. Her blue skin seemed to glow as she spoke. "Commander Corvin, with respect, these could be fake. We have seen many hoaxes before." Zeth's expression hardened. "Doctor, our best scientists have examined every byte of data. These archives are real. They are over 800 years old." The screen changed, showing images of strange beings. They walked on 2 legs like many species, but their skin was different colors: pink, brown, black, and white. They had no scales, no fur, just smooth skin and hair on their heads. "They called themselves humans," Zeth continued. "According to these records, they once controlled a vast empire spanning thousands of worlds. They were master warriors, brilliant scientists, and skilled builders." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Many delegates had heard old stories about such beings, but most thought they were myths. Captain Nira Ashari of the Diplomatic Corps raised her hand. "Commander, if these humans were so powerful, where are they now?" "Gone," Zeth replied simply. "The last entry in these archives is dated 750 years ago. After that, nothing. Complete silence from all human worlds." The screen showed star maps with red dots marking human territories. There were thousands of them, scattered across the galaxy like seeds. Many of those worlds now belonged to other species. Dr. Vex stood again, her voice filled with curiosity. "I have studied the old legends. There are stories about a great people who could adapt to any world, who fought with incredible skill, who built machines that seemed like magic. But I always thought they were just stories." "So did I," Zeth admitted, "but the evidence is overwhelming. These humans were real. They built an empire that made our current powers look small." Elder Tomas Trelawney, the ancient trade leader, spoke, with a voice like grinding stone. "If they were so mighty, what happened to them?" The screen changed again, showing the final archive entries. The text was hard to read, but the meaning was clear. Something terrible had happened. "The archives speak of a great catastrophe," Zeth explained. "Ships of unknown design appeared at the edge of human space. The humans called them devourers. The final messages speak of worlds being consumed, of desperate battles, of a decision to flee." "Flee where?" asked General Crixnethys, his mechanical voice echoing through the hall. "Unknown. The archives end with mentions of something called the Great Exodus. After that, silence." The hall fell quiet as the delegates processed this information. If these humans had been real, if they had controlled so much of the galaxy, what did that mean for the current powers? Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the hall. Red lights flashed as emergency signals filled the air. A young Corvin officer rushed into the room, his breathing heavy. "Commander Corvin, urgent message from the Outer Rim Patrol." Zeth's eyes narrowed. "What is it?" "Unknown ships, sir. They appeared near the Vega system 3 hours ago. Our patrol tried to make contact, but the ships didn't respond. They just watched." The officer activated his portable display. Grainy images showed sleek ships unlike anything in the known galaxy. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible, their hulls reflecting light in strange ways. "How many ships?" Dr. Vex asked, her scientific mind already racing. 12, ma'am. They observed our patrol for approximately 1 hour, then vanished. Our sensors couldn't track where they went. The hall erupted in worried voices. Unknown ships appearing at the edge of space was never a good sign. Throughout galactic history, such events often meant invasion or worse. Commander Zeth studied the images carefully. Something about the ships seemed familiar, but he couldn't place what. Have there been other sightings? He asked. The officer nodded grimly. Yes, sir. Similar reports from 6 other systems over the past month. Always the same pattern, unknown. Ships appear, observe, then disappear. Captain Nira stood, her diplomatic training taking over. We need to determine if these are connected to any known species. Perhaps a new race making first contact? Or an invasion force, General Crix added, his mechanical systems already calculating threat levels. Elder Tomas laughed, a sound like rocks falling. Invasion? 12 ships? Even if they are advanced, what can 12 ships do against our combined fleets? Dr. Vex was still staring at the images of the unknown ships. Something about their design triggered a memory. She looked back at the human archives still displayed on the main screen. Commander Corvin, she said slowly, may I see the technical specifications from the human archives again? Zeth nodded and changed the display. Ancient blueprints and ship designs filled the screen. Dr. Vex studied them carefully, her blue skin growing paler with each passing second. It's not possible, she whispered. What? Several delegates asked at once. Dr. Vex's voice shook as she spoke. The energy patterns, the hull configurations, the way these ships move. It matches the theoretical designs in the human archives. The hall fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting, but none wanted to believe it. You're saying these ships are human? Commander Zeth asked. I'm saying they could be. The technology matches. The design philosophy is identical. Elder Tomas scoffed. Impossible. The humans died out centuries ago. These archives prove it. The archives prove they disappeared, Dr. Vex corrected. That's not the same thing as dying out. The implications hung heavy in the air. If the humans had survived, if they had been building their strength somewhere in the darkness of space, what did that mean for the galaxy? Captain Nira stepped forward. We need more information. I propose we send diplomatic missions to establish contact with these ships. And if they're hostile? General Crix asked. Then we'll deal with that threat, Commander Zeth replied. But first, we need to know what we're facing. As the delegates began to argue among themselves, none noticed Dr. Vex quietly accessing the human archives again. She was reading about human military doctrine, about their legendary adaptability, about their reputation as the galaxy's greatest warriors. If the humans had returned, she realized the galaxy was about to change forever. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Uns Defiant, watching the alien trade convoy pass through the Kepler system. His ship hung in the shadow of a dead moon, invisible to the alien sensors below. The convoy consisted of 12 massive cargo vessels escorted by 4 warships. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Foster from the sensor station, those are Trelawney merchants. Their escort ships are armed, but they're not military grade. Jake nodded, making notes on his tablet. 3 months had passed since the human fleet had begun what they called the Great Survey. Small teams of human ships were spread across the galaxy, carefully watching and learning. They needed to understand how much had changed since humanity's exile. Any signs they've detected us? Jake asked. Negative, sir. Our stealth systems are holding perfectly. Jake smiled grimly. Human technology had advanced considerably during their 8 centuries in the void. While the galaxy had grown comfortable and stagnant, humanity had been forced to innovate or die. "Time to report back to Admiral Carter," Jake said. "Set course for the rendezvous point." The Un's defiance slipped away from the moon's shadow and engaged its faster-than-light drive. Within hours, they were approaching the Horsehead Nebula, where the human command fleet waited in hiding. The nebula was perfect cover. Its dense gas clouds blocked most sensors, and the electrical storms inside made it nearly impossible to navigate for anyone who didn't know the safe passages. Hidden deep within this cosmic storm was the pride of the human fleet, the UNS Sovereign. Jake's ship docked with the massive command vessel, and he made his way to the bridge. Admiral Lisa Carter stood before a wall of displays, showing star maps and intelligence reports. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Morrison," she said without turning around. "What did you find in the Kepler system?" "The Trelawney are using our old trade routes," Jake reported. "Their ships are larger than our historical records indicated, but their technology seems basic. No significant weapons or defenses." Admiral Carter finally turned to face him. "And the other species?" "The Corvin Empire has expanded significantly. They now control about 60% of what used to be human space. Their military is large, but relies on brute force rather than tactics." The Admiral nodded, processing this information. "What about the Nethys Collective?" "Highly advanced technology, but they seem focused on research rather than expansion. They've improved their cybernetic integration considerably." "And the Vex Dominion?" "Still the galaxy's librarians. They've been collecting and preserving knowledge from across the galaxy. Ironically, they probably know more about human history than any other species." Admiral Carter walked to the main display, which showed the current galactic map. Red zones marked Corvin space. Blue showed the Nethys Collective. Green indicated Trelawney territories. Yellow represented the Vex Dominion, and purple showed the Ashari Republic. 800 years, she said quietly. 800 years, and they've carved up our galaxy like a feast. "Admiral," Jake said carefully, "our worlds, our colonies, they're all occupied now. There are billions of aliens living on planets that used to be human." "I know," Carter replied. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Before Jake could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The bridge came alive with activity as officers rushed to their stations. "Admiral," called Commander Tony Walsh from the communication station, "we're receiving emergency signals from our scout teams across the galaxy." "Put it on screen," Carter ordered. The main display showed a grid of human ship captains reporting, and from different systems. Their faces showed concern and confusion. "Admiral Carter," said Captain Ben Rodriguez from the Outer Rim, "we've got a problem. The Corvin fleet is mobilizing. Massive troop movements across their entire territory." Another captain spoke up. "Ma'am, Nethys ships are conducting deep space scans. They're looking for something specific. The Trelawney have canceled all non-essential trade routes," added a third captain. "Their merchants are scared." Admiral Carter's expression hardened. "They know we're here." "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "Our stealth technology is decades ahead of theirs." Commander Walsh looked up from his station. "Admiral, I'm picking up increased chatter on alien communication networks. They're talking about ghost ships and phantom contacts." Carter moved to the tactical display. "Show me the alien fleet movements." The screen lit up with red dots representing alien ships. They were moving in patterns that clearly indicated a search operation. The Corvin Empire had deployed over 300 ships in a massive sweep of their territory. "They're hunting us," Jake observed. "Not hunting," Carter corrected. "They're afraid. Look at their formations. These aren't attack patterns. They're defensive." She was right. The alien fleets were positioning themselves around their most important worlds and trade routes. They were preparing for an invasion that they couldn't see coming. "Admiral," Commander Walsh said, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Let's hear it." The voice that filled the bridge belonged to Commander Zeth Corvin. His words were formal, but carried an undertone of fear. "Unknown vessels operating in galactic space. You have been observed in multiple systems over the past 3 months. The Galactic Council demands that you identify yourselves and state your intentions. Failure to respond will be considered an act of war." The bridge fell silent. After 3 months of careful observation, they had been discovered. The question now was how to respond. "Admiral," Jake said, "we could continue to avoid them. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable. For how long?" Carter asked. "They're mobilizing their entire military. Soon, they'll have ships searching every system in the galaxy." She walked to the center of the bridge, her mind racing through possibilities. The Great Survey had been successful. They now knew the current state of the galaxy, the strength of the major powers, and the locations of their former colonies. But they had also been discovered. The galaxy's current rulers knew something was out there, something that could move unseen through their space and disappear at will. Fear was building, and fear could lead to mistakes. "Ma'am," Commander Walsh said, "we're getting reports that some alien species are starting to panic. There are rumors spreading about the return of the legendary humans." Carter's eyebrows rose. "Legendary humans?" "Apparently, some of their historians have been studying the old archives. They're connecting our ship sightings to the human myths." Jake laughed despite the tension. "They think we're legends come to life." "Maybe that's exactly what we are," Carter said thoughtfully. "Commander Walsh, send a message to all our scout teams. Tell them to pull back to safe distances, but continue monitoring. I want to know every move the aliens make." "Yes, ma'am." Carter turned to Jake. "Captain, I want you to take a small team and get closer to Zentara Prime. I need to know what the Galactic Council is planning." "Understood, Admiral." "What about making contact?" Carter was quiet for a long moment, staring at the galactic map. 800 years ago, humanity had been forced to flee their home, driven out by an enemy they couldn't defeat. They had spent centuries rebuilding, growing stronger, developing new technologies. Now they were back, and the galaxy had forgotten them. The species that had carved up human space thought they were dealing with myths and legends. They had no idea that humanity had returned with a fleet of 10,000 ships. "Not yet," Carter finally said. "Let them worry. Let them wonder what's out there in the darkness. Fear will make them sloppy, and we need every advantage we can get." She looked at the tactical display again, watching the alien fleets scramble to defend against an enemy it couldn't see or understand. "Besides," she added with a cold smile, "legends are more frightening than reality. For now, let's let them believe in ghosts." The Unsovereign continued its silent vigil in the nebula, while across the galaxy, human ships moved like shadows through space. The Great Survey was complete, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had returned to reclaim their place in the galaxy. The only question was whether they would do it through diplomacy or force. Captain Ben Rodriguez had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. The UN's Ranger was completely surrounded by 12 Corvin warships, their weapons trained on his small destroyer. The alien vessels were massive, each one 3 times the size of his ship. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sarah Blake from the tactical station, "they're powering up their weapons. Should I raise shields?" Ben kept his voice calm. "Not yet. Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead Corvin ship. Admiral Vec Corvin stood in the center, his gray skin darker than usual with anger. His red eyes glowed as he stared at the human captain. Unknown vessel, Thek growled. You have been stalking our ships for weeks. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy you. Ben looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. He had hoped to avoid this moment, but it seemed the time for hiding was over. Lieutenant Blake, he said quietly, open a channel to Admiral Carter. Emergency frequency. Yes, sir. Ben took a deep breath. Admiral Carter had given all human captains strict orders to avoid contact with alien forces. But sometimes circumstances forced your hand. Admiral Vec Corvin, Ben said, standing up from his command chair. I am Captain Ben Rodriguez of the United Nations Starfleet. We are human. We have returned home. The effect was immediate. Admiral Vec's mouth fell open in shock. The other Corvin officers on the bridge began talking frantically among themselves. Ben could see the fear in their eyes. Impossible, Vec whispered. The humans are extinct. They died out centuries ago. We did not die, Ben replied calmly. We were forced to leave, but we have returned. You're lying, Vec shouted. Humans are myths, legends. Ben smiled grimly. Admiral, you're looking at one right now. We are very real, and we are very much alive. The Corvin fleet began moving, their ships taking more aggressive positions around the Unzez Ranger. Ben could see weapon batteries rotating to target his ship. Sir, Lieutenant Blake whispered, Admiral Carter is responding. She wants to know what's happening. Tell her we've made contact, Ben said. Full disclosure, it's time. On the main screen, Admiral Vec was consulting with his officers. Ben could hear fragments of their conversation, words like impossible and threat level, and informed the council. Finally, Vec turned back to the screen. Human or not, you are trespassing in Corvin space. You will surrender your vessel for inspection. I don't think so, Ben replied. We're not here to cause trouble, but we won't be taken prisoner either. Then you will be destroyed. The Corvin ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space around the Unz Ranger. But Ben was ready for this. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Show them what human ships can do. The Unz Ranger moved like a living thing, twisting and turning through the enemy fire. The Corvin weapons couldn't track the human ship's movements. It was too fast, too agile. Return fire, Ben commanded. Disable their weapons, but don't destroy them. Blue energy beams lanced out from the human ship, striking the Corvin vessels with surgical precision. One by one, their weapon systems went dark. The aliens found themselves helpless, their massive ships suddenly useless. What are you? Admiral Vec asked, his voice filled with disbelief. We are what we have always been, Ben replied. We are human. The battle, if it could be called that, was over in minutes. The Corvin fleet floated helplessly in space, their weapons destroyed, but their crews unharmed. The Unz Ranger had not received a single hit. Captain, Lieutenant Blake said, Admiral Carter is requesting immediate contact. Ben nodded. Put her through. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on a secondary screen. Her expression was calm, but Ben could see the tension in her eyes. Captain Rodriguez, she said, I assume you had a good reason for revealing our presence. They were going to destroy us, Admiral. I had to make a choice. Carter nodded. Understood. The decision is made. Signal the fleet. It's time to come home. Ben felt a wave of relief wash over him. For 3 months, they had been hiding in the shadows, watching and waiting. Now, finally, they could reveal themselves. Admiral, he said, what about the Corvin fleet? Let them go. They have a message to deliver. Ben turned back to the main screen, where Admiral Vec was still staring in shock. Admiral, you are free to leave. Tell your council that humanity has returned. We wish to speak with them. This ... This changes everything, Vex said quietly. Yes, Ben agreed. It does. The Corvin ships began to withdraw, their hulls scarred by human weapons, but their crews intact. Ben watched them go, knowing that within hours, every major power in the galaxy would know the truth. Captain, Lieutenant Blake said, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. It looks like our ships are powering up there. Main systems, Ben smiled. For 800 years, humanity had been hiding in the void between galaxies. They had built a new civilization, developed new technologies, and grown strong. Now they were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. All stations, he announced to his crew, prepare for fleet operations. We're going home. Meanwhile, aboard the Unzi Sovereign, Admiral Carter was addressing the combined human fleet. 10,000 ships hung in space around the massive command. Vessel, their hulls gleaming with power. People of Earth, she said, her voice carrying to every human ship in the galaxy. 800 years ago, our ancestors were forced to flee our home. They left behind everything they had built, everything they loved. They journeyed into the darkness between galaxies, where they kept our civilization alive. She paused, looking out at the assembled fleet. Today, we return, not as conquerors, but as the rightful heirs to our ancestral home. The galaxy has changed in our absence. New species have risen, new empires have formed. But this is still our galaxy, and we will reclaim our place in it. The transmission ended, and Carter turned to her staff. Commander Walsh, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we request a meeting. What should the message say, Admiral? Carter thought for a moment. Tell them this. To the current inhabitants of our galaxy, we are the humans you remember. In legend, we have spent 8 centuries in exile, rebuilding our civilization in the void between galaxies. We have returned to reclaim our place among the stars. We come in peace, but we come prepared for war. We request an audience with your leadership to discuss the future of our shared galaxy. Yes, ma'am. As the message was sent, human ships across the galaxy began to reveal themselves. They appeared near major trade routes, around alien colonies, and in the heart of enemy territory. The galaxy's current rulers suddenly found themselves face to face with legends made real. On Zentara Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The news of humanity's return had spread like wildfire. Some species were terrified, others were excited, and a few were preparing for war. Dr. Lysivex stood before the assembly, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. She had been studying the human archives for months, trying to understand what humanity's return would mean. Council members, she said, the humans are not just myths. They are real, they are here, and they are more advanced than we ever imagined. Commander Zeth Corvin looked shaken. His fleet had been humiliated by a single human ship. They destroyed our weapons without damaging our ships. Their technology is beyond anything we have. Which is why we must negotiate, said Captain Nira. Ashari, if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. Or perhaps they're waiting, suggested General Crixnethes, building their forces for a full invasion. We need more information, Elder Tomas Trelawney said. What do they want? Why did they return now? The debate continued for hours, but eventually the council reached a decision. They would meet with the humans. They would try to understand what these legendary beings wanted. But deep down, they all knew the same thing. The galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had returned, and their very presence changed everything. As the council prepared for the most important meeting in galactic history, human ships continued to appear throughout known space. They moved with purpose and precision, their crews ready for whatever would come next. The age of legends was over. The age of humanity had begun again. The meeting room aboard Harmony Station was filled with tension. Admiral Lisa Carter sat at one end of the long table, flanked by General Alex Thompson and Dr. Karen Walsh. Across from them sat representatives of the 5 major galactic powers, their faces showing a mixture of fear, curiosity, and suspicion. Admiral Carter looked around the table, studying each alien face. These beings had ruled the galaxy for centuries, believing themselves to be the supreme powers in known space. Now they were face to face with humanity's return. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Carter said, her voice calm and professional. "I know this situation is difficult for all of us." Commander Zeth Corvin leaned forward, his red eyes burning with intensity. "Where have you been?" "Our archives say your species disappeared over 700 years ago." "We were forced to leave," Carter replied. "Our galaxy was invaded by an enemy we could not defeat. Rather than see our civilization destroyed, we chose to flee." "Dr. Lysa." Vex's scientific mind was immediately engaged. "Invaded by whom?" "We have no records of any external threats." General Thompson spoke up. "They called themselves the Devourers. They came from beyond the galactic rim, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing but dead rock behind." "That's impossible," said Elder Tomas Trelawney. "No species has the power to consume entire worlds." "You would think so," Dr. Walsh said quietly. "But we saw it happen. We fought them for 50 years before we realized we could not win." "Captain." Nira Ashari looked confused. "But if this enemy was so powerful, why didn't they destroy us as well?" "Because we drew them away," Carter explained. "We used our remaining fleets to lead them into the void between galaxies. We sacrificed our home to save yours." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not simply fled. They had made themselves bait to protect the galaxy. "What happened to these Devourers?" asked General Krixnethys. "We fought them in the void for centuries," Thompson said. "Eventually, we found a way to defeat them. But it cost us everything. We had to rebuild our entire civilization from scratch." Admiral Vec Corvin, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You expect us to believe that you defeated an enemy that forced you to flee your home? That you rebuilt your civilization in empty space?" Carter smiled grimly. "Admiral, your fleet encountered one of our ships 3 days ago. Did Captain Rodriguez's vessel seem weak to you?" Vec's face darkened. "1 ship against 12. That proves nothing, doesn't it?" Thompson asked. "Your ships are the largest and most heavily armed in the galaxy. Yet a single human destroyer disabled your entire fleet without taking a single hit." "You caught us by surprise," Vec protested. "In a fair fight, the outcome would be different." The tension in the room was building. Carter could see that some of the aliens were becoming defensive, their pride wounded by the implications of human superiority. "Perhaps," Thompson said, "we should settle this question directly." Carter looked at her general with surprise. This was not part of their planned negotiation strategy. "What do you propose?" asked Commander Zeth. "A demonstration," Thompson replied. "Your combined fleets against one of our ships. If we lose, we will accept whatever terms you offer. If we win, you will acknowledge our right to reclaim our former territories." The alien delegates began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. The proposal was bold, almost insulting, but it was also an opportunity to test human capabilities. "How do we know you won't send your most powerful warship?" asked Elder Tomas. "Choose the ship yourself," Thompson said. "Pick any vessel from our fleet. We will accept your choice." Dr. Vex leaned forward. "And if we agree to this test, what assurances do we have that you won't use it as an excuse to attack us?" "Because," Carter said, "we could have attacked you already. We have 10,000 ships in this galaxy. If we wanted war, you would already be fighting it. The number sent a shock through the room. 10,000 ships was larger than any individual species' fleet. It was larger than some species' entire populations. 10,000? Captain Nera whispered. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected a fleet that large. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect, Dr. Walsh explained. We've been observing you for months. We know your capabilities, your weaknesses, your military doctrine. The alien delegates exchanged worried glances. The humans had been studying them while they had been stumbling around in the dark. Very. Well, Commander Zeph said finally, we accept your challenge, but we choose the conditions. Agreed, Thompson said. We will assemble a fleet of 50 ships from all 5 major powers. Our best vessels with our most experienced crews. You will face them with a single ship of our choosing. And if we win, then we will discuss territorial concessions. But if we win, you will accept integration into our existing governmental structure. Carter considered this. It was a high-stakes gamble, but Thompson was right. They needed to establish their strength clearly and decisively. Acceptable, she said. When and where? The neutral zone, Commander Zeth replied. 3 days from now, the battle will be broadcast throughout the galaxy. The meeting ended with formal agreements being signed. As the alien delegates filed out, Carter turned to Thompson. General, I hope you know what you're doing. Admiral, Thompson replied, we've been preparing for this moment for 800 years. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become. 3 days later, the neutral zone was filled with ships. The alien fleet was impressive. 50 vessels from 5 different species, each one representing the pinnacle of their military technology. Corvin battleships hung alongside Nethi's research vessels, while Trelawney heavy cruisers formed up with Ashari. Diplomatic escorts and Vex science ships dot the human ship they had chosen was the UN's Thunderbolt, a mid-sized destroyer commanded by Captain Ryan Hayes. It was not the largest or most powerful vessel in the human fleet, but it was representative of their standard military capabilities. Captain Hayes stood on his bridge, watching the alien fleet take position. His crew was calm and professional, showing no signs of nervousness despite being outnumbered 50-1. Captain, said Lieutenant Mark Foster from the communication station, the alien fleet is in position. They're requesting permission to begin. Very well, Hayes replied. All stations, prepare for combat. Remember, we want to disable their ships, not destroy them. Understood, sir. The battle began with the alien fleet opening fire simultaneously. The space around the UN's Thunderbolt filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile salvos. It was an impressive display of firepower, but the human ship was not there to receive it. The Thunderbolt moved like a dancer, weaving between the incoming fire with impossible grace. Its engines pulsed with power as it accelerated and decelerated in ways that seemed to defy physics. Their ship is too fast, observed Admiral Vec from the alien command vessel. How are they moving like that? Unknown, replied his tactical officer. Our targeting computers cannot lock onto them. Meanwhile, the UN's Thunderbolt began its counterattack. Blue energy beams lanced out from the human ship, striking alien vessels with surgical precision. One by one, the alien ships found their weapon systems disabled, their engines offline, their shields failing. The human ship seemed to be everywhere at once, appearing behind one vessel to disable its drives, then materializing beside another to knock out its weapons. The alien fleet, despite its overwhelming numbers, could not land a single hit on their target. This is impossible, whispered Dr. Vex as she watched the battle from the observation deck. One ship cannot defeat 50. Apparently it can, replied Commander Zeth grimly. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it was over, the entire 50-ship alien fleet hung helpless in space, their weapons destroyed, and their engines dead. The Un's thunderbolt had not received so much as a scratch. Captain Hayes opened a channel to the alien fleet. "This is Captain Ryan Hayes of the Un's Thunderbolt. Your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You fought with honor, but the battle is over." The silence that followed was deafening. Across the galaxy, billions of beings had watched the battle live. They had seen their most powerful fleets utterly defeated by a single human ship. Admiral Carter's voice came over the communication system, addressing not just the alien fleet, but the entire galaxy. To all who had witnessed this demonstration, she said, "Let there be no doubt about humanity's capabilities. We have returned to our ancestral home, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The technology you have seen today is the result of 8 centuries of advancement born from necessity." She paused, letting her words sink in across countless worlds. "We do not seek to dominate or destroy. We seek to reclaim our rightful place and to prepare this galaxy for threats you cannot yet imagine. The enemy that drove us into exile may return, and when they do, we must stand together." Commander Zeth's voice crackled over the communication system from his disabled flagship. "Admiral Carter, your point has been made. We ... We acknowledge your superiority." "Superiority is not what we seek," Carter replied. "Partnership is. We have learned much during our exile, and we are willing to share that knowledge. But we will also reclaim what was once ours." The alien delegates sat in stunned silence aboard their disabled ships. Everything they thought they knew about military power had been shattered in 2 hours. The humans had not just. 6 months after the Treaty of Harmony Station, the galaxy was transforming. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center of the new Galactic Defense Headquarters on Zentara Prime, watching status reports flow in from across known space. Massive facility hummed with activity as humans and aliens worked side by side for the first time in centuries. "Admiral," called Commander Tony Walsh from his station, "we're receiving confirmation from the Outer Rim. Captain Morrison's joint expedition has returned with disturbing news." Carter turned to the main display as Captain Jake Morrison's face appeared. Behind him on the bridge of the UNS Defiant stood alien officers from 3 different species, a sight that would have been impossible just months before. "Admiral Carter," Jake reported, "we've completed our survey of the galactic edge. The Devourer presence is larger than we expected. We count at least 200 scout ships conducting systematic probes of our defenses." The news sent a chill through the command center. 200 ships was far more than initial estimates had suggested. "What's their apparent objective?" Carter asked. "They're mapping our fleet positions and defensive installations," Jake replied. "But they're also doing something else. They single quotes learning. Their ships adapt to our scan frequencies, change their approach patterns based on our responses." Dr. Lysa Vex, now serving as the Confederation's chief science officer, stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, are you saying they're studying us the same way we studied them 800 years ago?" "Exactly, Doctor. They're preparing for invasion, but they're not rushing. They're being methodical." Carter nodded grimly. The Devourers had learned from their previous encounter with humanity. This time, they would not underestimate their opponents. "Time frame for full invasion?" she asked. "Based on their current activities, we estimate 18 months, Jake replied. "Maybe less." The timeline was shorter than anyone had hoped. Carter turned to address the mixed group of human and alien officers in the command center. "You all heard the report. We have 18 months to prepare this galaxy for the greatest threat it has ever faced. General Thompson, what's the status of our defense preparations?" General Alex Thompson approached the central table, which displayed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of Devourer activity, while blue zones showed Confederation fleet positions. Admiral, we've established defensive lines at key choke points leading into the galaxy, Thompson reported. However, our alien allies' fleets need significant upgrades to be effective against Devourer technology. Commander Zeth Corvin, now serving as the Confederation's alien fleet coordinator, looked uncomfortable. General, our ships performed well. For centuries before humanity returned. Against each other, Thompson replied diplomatically. The Devourers are not like any enemy you faced. Their ships can adapt, their weapons can penetrate any known shield technology, and they show no mercy. Dr. Corinne Walsh stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. Which is why we're sharing our defensive technologies with all Confederation members. Admiral, the first batch of shield upgrades is ready for installation. How long to upgrade the entire alien fleet? Carter asked. 6 months for critical systems, 12 months for full integration. Walsh replied. Elder Thomas Trelawney, despite his advanced age, had become one of humanity's strongest supporters on the Confederation Council. Admiral Carter, what about our worlds? How do we protect our civilian populations? Carter walked to the galactic map. We're establishing evacuation protocols for rim worlds and setting up defensive stations around major population centers. But I won't lie to you. If the Devourers break through our fleet defenses, ground combat will be necessary. General Crix Nethys processed this information with his enhanced cybernetic systems. Our ground forces are not trained for the type of warfare you describe, which is why we're starting joint training exercises immediately, Thompson announced. Human instructors will work with your military commanders to develop new tactics. Captain Nira Ashari raised a concern that had been bothering many aliens. Admiral, your people have been preparing for this war for 8 centuries. How do we know we can match your level of readiness in just 18 months? Carter looked around. The room at the mixed group of species. These beings had gone from fearing humanity to depending on them in less than a year. The transition had not been easy. Captain, you're right that we've had centuries to prepare. But you have something we lost long ago. Populated worlds worth defending. That gives you a motivation we didn't have during our exile. She activated a new section of the galactic map, showing human fleet positions throughout known space. What you're about to see has been classified until now, Carter announced. Commander Walsh, show them the full scope of our return. The map exploded with blue dots as thousands of human ships became visible. The alien officers gasped as they realized the true size of the human fleet. 10,000 ships, Dr. Vex whispered. You really brought 10,000 ships. Actually, Carter said quietly, we brought 50,000. Most have been hidden in the void between galaxies, waiting for our signal. The silence in the room was complete. 50,000 ships was larger than the combined fleets of every known species. Commander Zeth stared at the display in amazement. You could have conquered the entire galaxy without resistance. Yes, Carter agreed. But conquest was never our goal. Survival was. And now, survival depends on all of us working together. She pressed another control, and the map changed to show projected battle scenarios. When the Devourers arrive, they will come in force. Millions of ships, all designed for one purpose, consumption. They will try to overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers. General Thompson highlighted key strategic points. Our strategy is to force them into narrow corridors where our superior technology can offset their numerical advantage. But this only works if every species contributes their full strength. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed into a massive military camp. Human shipyards worked around the clock, producing new vessels while upgrading alien ships with advanced human technology. Joint training exercises brought together crews that had been enemies just years before. Captain Ben Rodriguez, the human who had first revealed humanity's return, now commanded a mixed fleet of human and Corvine ships. His crews had learned to work together despite their different biologies and cultures. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Kala Corvin, "the fleet is ready for the next patrol sweep." Ben nodded. Having a Corvin officer as his second-in-command had been Admiral Carter's idea, designed to build trust between the species. "Take us to the edge of the Sentinel Nebula," Ben ordered. "Intelligence suggests Devourer activity in that region." As their fleet moved through space, Ben reflected on how much had changed. The same Corvin empire that had tried to capture him months ago was now humanity's strongest military ally. Meanwhile, on Earth, the legendary human homeworld that aliens were seeing for the first time, massive construction projects were underway. The planet had been restored during humanity's exile, its ecosystems rebuilt, and its cities modernized. Dr. Vex stood in the gardens of New Geneva, looking up at the orbital shipyards that filled Earth's sky. Beside her, Admiral Carter watched. Construction crews putting the finishing touches on the largest warship ever built, the UN's Defiance, Carter said. 5 kilometers long, armed with weapons that can destroy entire fleets. "Will it be enough?" Vex asked. Carter was quiet for a moment. "Doctor, I've learned that enough is relative. We thought we were strong enough 800 years ago. We were wrong. But you're stronger now. Yes, and we're not alone this time." As if summoned by her words, a mixed squadron of ships passed overhead, human destroyers flying alongside Trelawney cruisers and Ashari diplomatic vessels, all bearing the new Confederation insignia. "Admiral," Vex said, "there's something I've been wondering about. Why did you really come back?" "The truth." Carter smiled. "The truth? We came back because this is home. No matter how far we traveled, no matter what we built in the void, this galaxy will always be home." She pointed to the stars beginning to appear in Earth's evening sky. Every one of those stars represents worlds our ancestors explored, civilizations they helped build, dreams they fought to protect. We couldn't let that legacy die. As the months passed, long-range sensors began detecting massive energy signatures. Beyond the galactic rim, the Devourers were massing their forces, preparing for the final assault. The day finally came when Admiral Carter stood before the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Human ships formed the backbone, but vessels from every Confederation species filled the formation. The broadcast reached every inhabited world. "Citizens of the galaxy," Carter began. 8 centuries ago, humanity faced a choice: fight and die, or flee and live. We chose to live, to preserve our civilization for a future day. She paused, looking out at the magnificent fleet stretching to the horizon. That day has come. The enemy that drove us into exile has returned, but they will not find us weak or divided. They will find a galaxy united, a galaxy prepared, and a galaxy that will not yield. The massive fleet began to move, 10,000 ships entering the atmosphere of Zentara Prime in perfect formation. The sight was breathtaking, a wall of metal and energy that filled the sky.